This morning I want to speak a little bit about the mood that we're supposed to have entering into these very serious days in the Hebrew calendar. I want to point our attention to a fact in Judaism that any student of halacha knows very well, and that is that we have a great tradition in Judaism of understanding a mitzvah down to its very last detail. We want to understand when there's a mitzvah, whether it's a simple one or a complicated one, every little detail about it, the way every circumstance might affect it, how it might change in different circumstances. It's part of the legal tradition of Judaism, understanding not only the general principles, but every single detail. We add in all sorts of different caveats and special circumstances and limitations to every law, like, for instance, lighting the Shabbat candles. You might think to yourselves, nothing could be a simpler mitzvah than lighting candles on Friday night. Match candles, find the time in the calendar, light, and it's done. But our sages ask a really interesting question about this mitzvah. Think about it. The question is, does a blind person say a blessing when he or she lights the Shabbat candles? If you're blind, do you say Lahadlik Ner Shel Shabbat? At the heart of this question is a prohibition in Jewish law against saying a blessing in vain. You're not allowed to say a blessing for no reason. You have to make sure that the blessing is actually said on the fulfillment of the commandment. If you believe that the essential reason for why we light Shabbat candles is to bask in the light of Shabbat, the joy that light is supposed to bring, well, if you're blind, then you've said a blessing in vain. Your blessing served no purpose because the principle of enjoying the light doesn't apply to you. On the other hand, if lighting the candles are not about you, but about Shabbat, bringing honor to Shabbat by creating a certain ambiance, then it doesn't matter if you benefit from the lights at all, and in that case, a blessing would be appropriate. So what is the law? This is what the Shulchan Aruch says. One who has a candle already lit on Friday evening for some other purpose must extinguish it and relight it for the sake of Shabbat. If you have another light, it was already lit before Shabbat, you were using it for some other reason, you have to extinguish it and light another candle, a special candle, in honor of Shabbat. Why? For joy alone is not enough. It's not enough that the light is bringing you joy. The candle must be lit for the honor of Shabbat. In other words, that question I asked, is the candle being lit for you or is it being lit for Shabbat, is answered by the tradition as yes and yes. You have to light it for yourself and you have to light it for Shabbat. Both are essential elements of the mitzvah, which means, I guess, that if you are blind, you should not recite the blessing because you can only fulfill one part of the mitzvah. You're only lighting it for Shabbat, not for yourself. But actually, while the analysis may seem cogent, it is actually wrong. The law is that a blind person does say a blessing when he or she lights the candles, and why, the reason why, is actually found tucked away in the middle of our parsha that we read this morning. Amidst the list of blessings and curses that will happen if we don't obey, this is what was read this morning. V'hayita mimashesh batzohorayim, you will grope in the middle of the day, ka'asher yimashesh ha'iver ba'afela, the way that a blind person will grope in the darkness. Ve'ein Moshiach, and no one will save you. This is a description. You know, this parsha had a list of terrible curses. So this is one of those terrible curses. You will grope at midday the way that a blind person gropes in the darkness. This verse has a redundancy that has actually plagued commentators. Why does the verse describe the situation of helplessness using the metaphor of a blind person groping in the dark? Think about it, a blind person groping in the dark. A blind person gropes in the middle of the day the same way he gropes in the dark. And a seeing person gropes in the darkness as much as a blind person does. So there is something here that doesn't work. Something may be extra that the Torah is trying to convey. So the answer to this is found in a moving Talmudic passage in Tractate Megillah. Listen to this passage. Rabbi Yossi said, "All my life I was pained by the verse, 'You will grope at midday the way a blind man gropes in the darkness.'" The Talmud, which is a massive collection of Jewish literature and law and lore, only contains the words, "All my life I struggled with this," 3 times. So right away, when you see a rabbi saying, "All my life I struggled with this verse," you start paying attention. All my life, I wondered what it meant to grope at midday the way a blind person gropes in the darkness. Now, what difference, I asked, does it make when to a blind man whether it is dark or light? But Rabbi Yossi says, now I find the answer. Because an incident occurred. I was once walking on a pitch-black night when I saw a blind man walking in the road with a torch in his hand. I said to him, "My son, why do you carry this torch?" He replied, "As long as I have this torch in my hand, people see me, and they save me from the holes and the thorns and the briars on my way." Aha. Rabbi Yossi's explanation is an answer to our question. One who is blind cannot see, but to be blind in the dark is worse. Because then not only can you not see, but others cannot see you. This is a parsha, as we said, that is devoted to the curses that will befall the people if they stray from the right path. And the worst curse that the Torah describes is not a darkness where you can't see others. It is a darkness where others can't see you. It is the darkness of loneliness. It is the darkness of solitude. It is the darkness of isolation. That does not just mean physical aloneness. It's the loneliness that so many of us carry inside. It's the sickness that I have that I don't want to tell anybody about. That's walking in the dark where nobody sees you. It's the sense of hopelessness and despair that I feel, that I keep inside. That's walking in the dark when nobody sees you. For many of us, This has been a tough year, and we're walking around with grief and feelings of loss on a daily basis. But nobody knows. We're in the dark. So getting back to our original question, that is why a blind person says a blessing when he or she lights the Shabbat candles, because she does benefit from them. Maybe they don't help her see, but they help others see her. If I had to think of one simple mitzvah that we can do during the month of Elul, a mitzvah that I think is so desperately needed this year, it is to reach out to people in our lives who probably feel invisible and let them know that you see them. So many people, particularly seniors, are staying away from group settings, staying away from interactions, any face-to-face encounter that they can avoid. They're afraid. Many are watching on the live stream today. They can see us, but we can't see them. And others are here and maybe managing, but carrying and struggling inside with mental stress and anxiety and depression, which have skyrocketed in the past year. We can see them, but we don't see all of them. This is the time to reach out. It doesn't take much. Just a phone call or an email. If you've been waiting to call an old friend and to catch up, Elul is the time to do it. This is the month of relationship. Ani ledodi v'dodi li. If you've been waiting to make up with somebody, to make up with a relative or a family member or a coworker or somebody with whom you have a disagreement, now is the time to do it. I say the same thing every year around this time of year. Everybody is so busy with the physical preparation. That means your tickets and the live stream and the meals and the organizing and who's going where for dinner. Let's remember the real purpose of Elul is not physical preparation, but spiritual preparation. We've only got a few days left to tip the scales in our favor so that we get written in the right book when God makes His judgment. So I hope we can commit ourselves to performing some of that spiritual preparation, performing some of those good deeds that can help tilt the scales in the right direction by reigniting, finding that light, a broken relationship, forgiving somebody who wronged us, and doing more mitzvot. This is a world that definitely needs more love and more healing and more light. May it be so. Shabbat Shalom.